In the game of basketball, emotions run high, but few players channel that heat like Caitlin Clark. When the game turns physical or the calls stop coming, her reaction is immediate. You see it in her face, hear it in her voice, and feel it in how hard she pushes back. These moments show the weight she carries and how hard she fights to win. These are Caitlin Clark's most heated moments, and each of them gets more intense than the last. Kicking it out, Evans takes the three, takes the two, and knocks it down. Let's begin with the moment that showed exactly how quickly things can escalate when Caitlin Clark is under pressure. On January 10, 2024, in a matchup against the Purdue Boilermakers, she stepped onto the court with a focus that was impossible to miss. You could see it in her posture, in the precision of her movement, and in the way she scanned the floor. There was no need for words. Her intent was clear from the opening tip. But intensity like that doesn't always go unnoticed. Just seconds into the game, her teammate Kylie Furbach takes a clear shove. An obvious foul the referee chooses to ignore. Caitlin's reaction is instant. She screams in frustration, demanding the call. Instead, she gets a technical. No warning, no benefit of the doubt, just the price she pays for showing fire met with some contact. Clark is upset. She gets teed up. Yeah. The latter part of the game. Yeah. You could tell when treatment like that starts early, it sets a tone that only builds with time. And in Clark's case, that pressure doesn't fade. It stacks. But the pressure didn't let up after Purdue. It followed Caitlin Clark into every game, and on March 23, 2024, during Iowa's matchup against Holy Cross, it surfaced again. After a sharp steal in the backcourt, Clark raced down the floor looking to capitalize. But before she could make a move, she was met by a crowd of defenders. They swarmed her using their size and physicality to force her off the ball. No foul was called, and with nowhere to go, frustration took over. Called early. Clark reacted, on the spot, bouncing the ball off her head as voices from the sideline shouted for a technical inside. But this wasn't an isolated burst of emotion. It was the result of constant contact, relentless pressure, and calls that never came. And for Caitlin Clark, it was becoming part of the pattern. But that pattern didn't stop in college. It followed her straight into the pros. On July 17, 2024, during a matchup between the Indiana Fever and the Dallas Wings, Clark once again found herself isolated and under pressure. With just 45 seconds left on the clock, she pushed the ball down the court, being the only player from her team in motion. But faced with a triple-team defense and no foul in sight, she tried to create something out of nothing. The play unraveled, and so did her patience, but right now they're just thinking about winning this ball game. Mark quickly gets it up court and got it knocked away. Odyssey cradles it. In the aftermath, she turned toward the sideline, picked up a water bottle, and launched it across the court. The frustration that had simmered for months boiled over once again. Welcome back to Dallas. Caitlin Clark upset with herself. And just when it seemed like the pressure couldn't get any heavier, it did. On February 25, 2024, during a high-stakes matchup between Iowa and Ohio State, Caitlin Clark found herself in yet another heated moment, this time with guard J.C. Sheldon. Midway through the game, Clark was blatantly fouled. Sheldon grabbed her left hand right in front of the officials. Then came a second hit, all in the same sequence. Still no whistle, no call. Moments like these take a toll. Getting hacked on back-to-back plays and hearing nothing from the whistle only adds fuel to the frustration that's been building all season. But it wasn't the last time Clark would clash with someone who wasn't afraid to get physical. On June 1, 2024, during a WNBA matchup between the Indiana Fever and the Chicago Sky, the rivalry between Caitlin Clark and Angel Rhee hit a boiling point. Rhee, already known for bringing extra heat whenever Clark is involved, delivered a hard shove using her arm and elbow that sent Clark to the floor. The contact may have looked like a simple foul on a rebound, but in real time, it was anything but subtle. The refs let it go, the crowd reacted, and Rhee made sure to top it off with taunting that only escalated the tension. Moments like this have become part of Clark's WNBA experience, taking hits, staying on her feet, and responding not with words, but with her game. And with every push, she pushes back harder. But physical battles weren't the only thing testing Clark's patience. Sometimes it was the officials who pushed her to the edge. On January 10, 2024, during Iowa's game against Purdue, Clark pulled off one of the most difficult shots in basketball, a clean half-court buzzer beater. According to a study published in the Journal of Sports Science, there's only about a 1 in 100 chance of sinking one. It should have been a highlight, but instead it was waved off. Field goal percentages actually go up. The ref called a foul on Clark just before she released the ball, nullifying what could have been one of the most impressive moments of the season. She was already mid-motion deep into her shot, but it didn't matter. The play was erased, and Clark's frustration boiled over. Moments like these only added to the growing tension. She wasn't just battling defenders. She was fighting for fairness and sometimes for recognition. But missed calls weren't just frustrating. They soon became a routine. On May 20th, 2024, during a game between the Indiana Fever and the Connecticut Sun, Caitlin Clark found herself in yet another no-win situation. First, she was clearly bumped on the drive. Then, as she lost control of the ball, her arm was grabbed. Two obvious fouls, and the officials let both go without a whistle. Well, here she just loses the handle. Alyssa Thomas able to come up with it. This time, Clark didn't hold it in. She turned to the referee visibly furious and let her frustration out loud and clear. Takes the foul there, which you can't do. That's a big difference from college to the pros. Lip readers had no trouble catching what she said. There was no sugarcoating it. Clark had reached her limit. Let's take a look. And it's this kind of treatment that consistently fuels Caitlin Clark's heated moments on the court. One of the most explosive came on August 18, 2024, during the Indiana Fever's game against the Seattle Storm. After missing a shot, Clark's frustration boiled over. She slapped the backboard padding out of anger, and immediately the whistle blew. She was hit with a technical foul for being disrespectful to the game after that foul call on Aaliyah. But this one, I think, is, and just when it seems like she might catch a break, there's always another moment waiting to test her. On May 30th, 2024, during a game between the Indiana Fever and the Seattle Storm, Caitlin Clark had just hit a three and was jogging back on defense when Victoria Vivians delivered a forearm straight to her chest. Up until that point, Clark had worked hard to stay composed through the chaos. But for many fans watching, this felt like the moment when everything boiled over and enough was finally enough. This time, she wasn't alone. Her teammates stepped in, defending her, making it one of the few moments where the weight didn't fall entirely on her shoulders. But Clark's battles don't stop at the buzzer. Off the court, she faces constant scrutiny, uneven treatment, and a steady wave of criticism, often simply for being one of the brightest stars in the league. The pressure to stay composed never disappears. You can see her trying to hold it in, likely under constant pressure to look composed and stay professional. Even her own father has been seen stepping in, asking her to dial it back. Still, there are times when the pressure becomes too much to contain. And in those moments, Caitlin Clark shows exactly what she's made of. With the spotlight on her every move, tough defense is expected. Sometimes it crosses the line, sometimes it feels intentional. But what sets her apart is not just her skill, it's how she responds when everything around her reaches a breaking point. She doesn't back off, she locks in. The energy changes. The crowd leans forward, and suddenly, the game shifts in her favor. That's exactly what makes Caitlin Clark truly unforgettable. If you enjoyed these moments as much as we did, make sure to like, subscribe, and tell us in the comments which one had you shouting at the screen. See you in the next one.